Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, we're continuing on with our interview of the two co-founders of Trifecta Sports Solutions, Will Hall and Jerry Fuller. Guys, thanks for joining us once again.
Hi again. Thank you once again for bringing us back for this opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. It was our pleasure.
Great. So we were having a great time last time before I rudely interrupted and cut your story short because we were out of time. But I believe after we learned a little bit about how Trifecta Sports Solutions came to exist, the contest that you entered and were pretty successful in, we were talking about how you were showing some judges how your technology works by basically having them smash their own hands with a hammer.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into full detail because the listeners should go back to that last episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about, but
pretty much we're a high school group. We can't afford fancy electronics to test all this. So we're like, we have a hammer, we have this. Let's see if it works.
Yeah, and just started hitting ourselves on the hand basically and found out that, hey, this works.
Yeah, and that was our testing. And then we did, as quarantine went on, I built an actual rig to go and actually test it, and it kind of worked, it kind of didn't. It was a little bit successful.
It was good for the pitch.
It was good for our pitch.
It was good. It looked good, so that's what matters, right?
So you guys come in second place in this Innovate Within contest, and I think the next step is you guys decide you want to do more with this, right? So that's kind of where you're at now.
Yes.
So if you had to say what the plan is, I mean, you got a freshman at Michigan. Which one is it?
Michigan State.
Michigan State. I always forget the difference. Michigan State. And you got a high schooler. Like, what kind of plan you guys got going on? I mean, are you guys? You have a company? Yes. Are like, you going to be making helmets? Are you partnering? Like, what's the deal?
So the plan was tell me what you worked out at Michigan State.
Yeah. So the amazing thing that Michigan State has offered us is giving us a center, which is already there, but giving us a space in that center to continue this. It's called the Hatch Center. And basically what you do there, you go through the entrepreneurial process. They help you with packaging, make sure everything looks nice, help you get a hold of people.
Get all the testing done.
Help them with testing. So that's really what the plan on my end is. Jerry.
My end was going to be do all the design work for Will, and Will just gives it to him and says, here's what my partner did.
Gosh, I need to do whatever Will's doing. That's what I need to be doing.
It's a little rough. I don't think that was exactly what we had discussed, but it was a little something like that, I guess.
So let me pause here real quick. So the Hatch Center is opening up this space for you to do testing.
They were.
They were going to do all of this stuff. Correct.
Sadly, my classes got moved to remote.
Okay, but hopefully in the future, maybe things will open back up again, and that might become a possibility for you, right?
That is the hope.
Now, is this all pro bono and just free for you to be using? And I ask because last episode, we made it very clear that Luke and I are now part owners of the company, so we don't want to dilute our investment.
Oh, yes. So, no. No, actually, the Hatch Center is actually, it's free to all students, which is the amazing thing that they offer. The school board at Michigan State had seen our pitch. They had decided, you know what, we really want you guys to continue this. And we want our Spartans to be known for doing something amazing. So that is really where they struck my interest alone. I was like, hey, there's a good thing here.
That's really awesome. And Jerry, that sounds like maybe you get a foot in the door for the old application to Michigan State, right?
Yeah.
I've been telling them, I've been egging them on.
They actually won't leave me alone right now. I keep getting message after message from them.
And I would suggest you try out the Pennsylvania State University. It is a superior school, just saying. Go Nittany Lions. But, Michigan State might be a good backup plan.
Oh, I see how it is.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt again, but let's continue on with about the prototyping and where things are headed.
So what our current plan is we took a football helmet we had that Will's got a bunch of decommissioned football helmets, and we said, we're going to take this helmet, we're going to completely put our padding into it, and then once we're done with that, we're going to take it to the company that made that helmet and say, license this design. It works better than yours.
Maybe not exactly like that,
Yeah, but
that's not the full pitch.
I was going to say that's awfully cocky. And
maybe we can help with your pitch. I tell you.
Yeah, that would be a little.
We haven't thought that far ahead yet.
But that is the eventual plan. You know what? Get it to a state where it can go into any helmet that it needs to.
Yeah.
I have your
let
pitch.
The companies decide.
I have it.
Oh, you have the pitch.
You take your helmet with the padding, and you get Pittsburgh's own Antonio Brown. Well, not anymore, because you know all the helmet issues, and it's like he didn't play because he couldn't wear his old helmet.
Oh yeah.
You get Antonio Brown to wear your helmet. Hold on, now that I'm thinking about it, he's kind of.
I don't know. He might throw a fit.
He's kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I mean,
he might not be the best spokesman for you.
He might be looking for a payday, though. So
yeah, you never know.
So I have a question for you guys, and I don't want to come off negative or sound harsh or anything like that. But you have a helmet which does a better job, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome. That's what we need. We need to have helmets that reduce concussions, reduce head injuries, all of these things. But usually something that does better costs a lot more. Do you have projections on the cost of your helmet versus another?
Yeah. So the funny thing with that is that your actual, assumption is not right. It's actually tends to be a little bit cheaper when we go through the processing and actual building of the helmet. So right now they have injection molding for the TPU, which is a certain type of plastic.
TPU, which is a flexible plastic.
Yep. So that's injection, but our system is also injection, but the material is cheaper than the TPU and reacts better to the forces that are applied.
Yeah. Well, actually, our material is not injection. It's castable. So it's kind of injection. It's kind of not, but it's a castable liquid that then it's a silicone-based compound that we use. And we're still working on testing it for durability and all that because we want to make sure it holds up over time. But at the moment, it seems to be holding up pretty well over time after repetitive hits and use. And like a normal helmet, after 2 or 3 years, it's going to need to be reconditioned and all that.
I can't imagine that like an NFL player or a college player, let's say, wears the same helmet for an extended period of time, right?
No, we're talking specifically about high school.
Okay.
We really wanted, my thing was that we really should start with high school football.
Sure.
That's where, rules aren't followed to a T as the higher up sports are.
Okay.
And that's really where you see a lot of your concussions. We looked at it. It was 6.4 million head injuries happen in high school football. And that obviously, just like with the video that we see that the listeners cannot, your eyes perked up like, wow, that is a number I was not ready for. It is a crazy statistic that is very not good.
On top of that, most of the people who play football in the United States are high schoolers and younger or high school age or younger because as the further you go, the harder it is to continue. But that's really why most of those injuries are there. And you think about it, if you can reduce the amount of injuries, that can drastically, improve education and all that and really help people overall.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Alrighty. So the next thing we want to talk about is, so you're hopefully with this pandemic maybe clearing up here, getting some help, and you kind of get back into virtual. So you talked about, you're doing some testing, you're partnering up with your university there, Will, to do some of this stuff and get some help and assistance. So what kind of things do you guys need to do from, either, educating, high school athletes. And my guess is there's probably, I imagine the trainers on high school teams or athletic directors. I mean, what does that look like? And I imagine also kind of a two-part question. Not only do you need to be able to educate them about this better, superior product, but at some point in time, you guys have to get this all made and licensed and manufactured. And what's that going to look like for you guys?
So to answer your first part of that question, really, the processes that are going with educating about concussions with, like you said, athletic directors, trainers, coaches, even players. I know at our school specifically, we have to go through a week-long process of head and helmet safety when you're going into a tackle, when you're going to block if you're a lineman, or when you're going into a tackle if you're a running back. You know, we do a week-long process, and Jerry can attest to this because he has to record it, and it's very boring.
Yeah.
But it is a very long, drawn-out process, and everyone has to take a test. And if you do not pass it, it's basically like, all right, you are kind of not allowed to play.
Like you can't follow these rules properly, so you're not allowed on the field, that sort of thing.
That's kind of the thing. If you cannot follow the rules and play the sport correctly and not hurt yourself, then it's like, it's not a penalty. There is opportunities to do it correctly and redo it. But it's like, all right, it's been assumed that it is not safe to have you on the field, not only for your health, but for everyone else.
So I got a quick segue, and I don't know, Will or Jerry, if you have any information on this, but I saw a statistic. This was years ago. I saw something about helmet safety, and they were talking about the number of concussions that occur in like professional NFL and like Canadian and like basically pseudo professional. Yeah. And then they compared that to the number of concussions that occur in similar contact sports that don't wear helmets, like rugby, Australian rules football. And the statistics were like, you're wearing a helmet and you're getting higher, and there's more concussions per capita, whatever the number is, versus rugby players not wearing helmets, and they get fewer concussions. And my guess is a lot of this, and you're a football player, and I was a bench warmer back in the day. I imagine a lot of this is just technique and like doing things. Like you have this big pad on your head and you assume you can just use it. Right?
Exactly. So I actually play rugby as well for the local men's league.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can tell you. Yeah. I can tell you I can tell you the process of going through the tackling circuit that rugby does compared to football. Like you said, you have that helmet on. You're going to think you're fearless. You have something that's going to protect your brain, your skull, and you're not going to get hurt. While in rugby, you know pretty darn well that you can fracture a skull with the simplest knee to a head. You know, it's something where just because you have that padding doesn't make you Iron Man or anything like that. It doesn't make you Superman. You know, you still have to think consciously about it.
So you know firsthand the difference between tackling and something like rugby versus what traditional tackling would be in football.
Rugby tackling, you wouldn't think of it because it's such a brutal sport and there's no padding at all, but it's one of the safest sports, actually, I would say, in the world besides golf. It's one of the safest.
Hey, as a golfer, you know, you can get a lot of serious injuries out there.
Oh, like turf toe?
Turf toe, maybe pull a back muscle.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Hold on. So before we go on with this any further and debate how much of a sport golf is, we're a little bit overdue here for a word from our sponsor.
And I think it's Trifecta Sports Solutions again, right?
Absolutely it is. Trifecta. Where can people go to learn more about you?
So you can learn more about us at the trifectasportsolutions.com webpage, where you can also get a hold of us there a little bit easier. But if you don't want to do all that work, you can just go ahead and email us at trifectasportsolutions@gmail.com. Makes it a little bit simpler, but you should already know both of those from the last episode if you listened to it.
And don't forget, check out all of our social media pages, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You're most likely, if you're trying to contact us, Facebook's your best bet.
I think it's interesting that you guys are Gen Z or millennials, whatever you got. I don't even know what you guys are.
I don't even know.
And you guys are on Facebook. Like my daughter tells me that anybody on Facebook under the age of like 30 is like, they're not on Facebook if you're under the age of 30. So
wow, that's a little bit.
Maybe as a business, it's different though, Luke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Yeah, you're right.
So for any of you who want to reach out to Trifecta Sports Solutions, if you want to give them a big old fat paycheck, if you want to donate, if you want to, donate to Unprofessional Engineering because you're so inspired by this episode, feel free to email us at unprofessionalengineering engineering@gmail.com. In addition to liking us, offering to sponsor us, coming up with episodes that we should cover, I do have a couple other shout outs because of people that have done just that. Brandon L. from the University of Washington already left us a review. Brandon L., your stickers are in the mail. Not really, but they're in my desk. LET also wrote in. It's going to college for chemical engineering. So Ellie's obviously...
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. A bit smarter
than both of us.
Yeah, so maybe the Trifecta Sports Solutions needs a chem eng coming on the team to figure out some of those materials. One never knows. So again, email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com to continue on with these conversations. So again, moving on here, we were talking about the prototyping a bit. We were talking about Luke being a bench warmer. And Luke, I think there was a second part to your question that we hadn't addressed yet. Do you recall?
Yeah, it was, so you talked about education a little bit and how that's something that is probably going to be a big part of what you guys do, as a company, moving forward as you kind of develop. But the next piece is you guys have to make this stuff. I mean, you guys have to, find, manufacturing, you got to, license this, you got to, what stage are you at now? And, is this like a, 3 to 5 year, 3 to 10, like kind of where are you at and how are you feeling about that sort of stuff?
So we're currently, we're still in the prototyping phase because the goal was to go take it to Michigan State this year, get everything tested and all that, and then move on to figuring out how to get this manufactured and made. Yeah. So our goal was, because we looked into it, making things on your own is expensive.
Yeah, that's true.
You're looking at a multi-million-dollar problem there. So then we had the idea, let's take this idea and let's license it and take it to the companies. And if they like it, say, okay, here's the design plans. Here's everything you need to do. We want a $30 royalty per helmet or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that way it's the company's problem to have to manufacture it and do all that. And we still have the income, but we can keep improving then on the design and keep getting them new, improved designs to help making it safer.
So we're still in that little phase.
The cool thing about that, it sounds like if you're licensing a technology, like you could potentially transition this to other applications, not just, like football. Like it could be like racing helmets. It could be cycling helmets. It could be anything where you need to protect your noggin, right?
It's almost like you read our mind on that one because our plan was we're looking at the sports and we're working our way from like the ones that have the most head injuries to the least. So after we finished football, I forget what was the next one.
We were actually planning on going towards those of hockey, lacrosse, going towards motorsports like you had even mentioned. Those are really the ones that we want to hit because obviously you have to have a helmet for those. And then if, let's say in the near future, if we get that far, with rugby, you can have a rugby cap. So if you can help make a rugby cap better to further protect, you can do even more help to the actual world itself.
Yeah, and one I'd recommend, and I only need like $4 per licensing per helmet, is cycling. I spend so much money on cycling stuff, and that's something that like a lot of like people do like throughout their entire life, and you always need a new helmet, and helmets are really expensive and they got all kinds of crazy technology in them. And I just spent like $150 in a helmet. So I would check out cycling helmets.
Okay. You know what?
Think about that.
I don't know about a $4, but I think we can pull off like $150.
$150. Wow. That's great. Do we get to split that, Luke, or no?
No.
Yeah, that's for the both of you. That's
thanks.
What is that? 75 cents each?
Yeah, I like where this is headed.
You know what?
Okay. All right. So you're talking about the millions and millions of dollars that it costs to manufacture. What's a solution to solve that problem?
So for us, it'd be very, very expensive. But to a company, even the helmets that we actually took and tested from that company, we looked and they average, $72 million a year in revenue.
Yeah, and you think about it, if we take away their step of having to do their research, that gives them more funding so they have more profit in the end, but also they can then shift that revenue that they no longer are using to do all the research and all that design work. They can shift that into making better manufacturing and like just doing more, how do I say this? I don't know.
Just making it a little bit easier for us on our end.
Yeah,
obviously.
Sure.
Just because we do not have the facility, then they would.
Yeah, the other thing too, and again, all this advice is free, guys. So don't feel.
So you know how much it's worth.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like it could be one of those things too, where you talk about licensing, but let's say the licensing doesn't go the route you plan it. I feel like you guys could be ripe for acquisition too. You know, they buy your designs, and you know, you guys as VPs of whatever that portion of the businesses that builds that, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, we consider that as well.
Yeah.
It sounds like an early retirement plan. I like it.
Yes. Not bad.
Now, I want to talk about kind of like moving forward and how you're going to get your name out there, kind of make these relationships happen with these different companies that can help you along the way. But before we do that, I think we need to take another break for this week's Luke's Rant.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep this related to sports equipment. And I had just mentioned my bike helmet. And this is what this pandemic is doing. If you're listening to this at some other point in time, this is 2020 and we're in the middle of a global pandemic. You cannot buy a bicycle, folks, and you cannot buy material to build a deck that I've been working on for literally, I decided to start at the first day of the pandemic. So it is just, I am so irritated with, I wanted to buy a new bike and I couldn't because they literally have 0 bikes at any bike shops. And I even like buying expensive bikes. You know, I'm of that age where I buy really expensive things that make me feel younger. And it's just super, super frustrating. And I have a deck with no boards on top of it, James. I was able to get all of the joists in, all of the framing, all of my joists taped down. And I have no decking because the decking is going to take another 3 weeks to come in.
You know, now that you mentioned that, I'm obviously much lazier than you are. So we were talking about maybe doing some sort of outdoor kitchen patio improvement thing. And when we mentioned it, we had some friends that were like, well, good luck with that, because contractors are like a year and a half out, 2 years out now, because everybody's having the same idea. Like, let's get outside, like, let's get these projects done since we have the time. And you're right, man. Like, really frustrating when you're trying to do some of these improvements. So at least in your case, it gave you some time for that head injury to heal up a little bit.
There you
go. Awesome, Luke. Well, I appreciate that rant, and I am on the same page as you. All right, so back to talking to Trifecta Sports Solutions about what they're doing. Let's hear about how you're going to get your name out there, other than appearing on what could be the greatest engineering podcast of all time.
Of course. You know, we've been trying. I mean, we took a little bit of a break from social media, but we came back very heavy with one of our first posts hitting over 2,000 people.
Wow.
For us, that's a lot of people.
Oh, that's
nice.
People.
But we plan on pushing out with like Facebook advertisements and all that here once we get going again. But then, Will, you want to talk about the kind of bigger plan we have?
Yeah, so there's a very large plan that is happening. We actually are in contact with the Indianapolis Colts. So whenever we get a chance and everything, you know, kind of subsides a little bit, we're planning on going down there and actually having a little bit of a day just to do some pitches and talk to them like, hey, you know, this is very revolutionary. And if you let us put our system in some of your helmets and, you know, some of the guys that are kind of on practice squad, not like the starters, and see how they feel about it.
Oh, you know? No. That's pretty mean, guys.
It's not mean because you know
totally just said your life is not as valuable as the starters. Ouch.
You know, even if you're on practice, you're making $300,000 a year. So I think that's a pretty solid one. But
that's awesome. Now, how did you get connected with them?
So through actually when we did that pitch on Zoom with a live stream, there is a very nice gentleman that really was offering his assistance to anybody. and we actually got in contact with him.
He contacted us.
Yeah, we've been a little bit lazy, kind of, but
you have a lot going on. I mean,
a little bit, but he really is like, hey, I have a contact with the Colts, and I think they would be very interested in hearing all of what you guys have to say. And we were like, all right, well, hey, sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. I think we need a few of these good Samaritans out there, Luke, to be like, hey, I have a contact at fill in the blank, and we can take your crappy little podcast and just make it the greatest thing since sliced bread. What do you think?
We need Joe Rogan to promote our podcast. The most prolific current podcaster.
I think you're right. That's really cool. So you have the Colts connection going on. Do you have anything else in the works along with your social media push?
Well, there's some
that you're allowed to talk about. Let's be fair.
There's some stuff a little bit under the table that's in the works, but
okay.
But we're still working hard. I would have to say, trying, also working on, merchandising with some T-shirts and some sweatshirts. Trying to work on that, and of course, we'll send you guys some when we get.
That's what I like to hear. We appreciate it.
Some cool Trifecta sports gear.
Yeah.
So in talking with some of these, different experts and these folks that were giving you guys some feedback and some advice, if you had to say, like the expected versus kind of what you would like when do you see high school footballers wearing a helmet with your design on the inside of it? Is this like 2 years, 5 years?
Probably
like
2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
I'd say.
So I would really,
that feels so aggressive too, though.
Yeah. He's got a little bit of different views than me just because I know how fast things move. I would have to say, expected, if we really, really put our head down and just start going forward with this, I'm thinking probably 4 to 5, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I'm really thinking if things go our way a little bit nicer, especially this pandemic is a little bit, not helping us a little bit.
Yeah, minor
bit
setback.
of a downer.
Yeah.
I would have to say, we could really expect seeing high schoolers with our equipment inside of it anywhere from probably 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
And by that time, I would hope to see a very large number of those head injuries going down.
Makes sense.
And the other thing too is you have how many more years at Michigan?
So I have 4 at least, and that's not including possibly double majoring.
Oh yeah, why not? Right.
Of course,
yeah,
double major and
why not triple? I mean, quadruple, whatever. Yeah.
Well, you could.
Yeah.
And Jerry hasn't even started college yet, so I mean,
started senior year yet. I mean,
man, I'm gonna just go drink the day away after this, Luke. Just making me feel depressed. So, guys, I've been holding off on this question for 2 full episodes now.
All right.
I feel like all of our listeners have to be thinking the same thing.
Let's hear it.
Football helmets have been around for a while.
Yes, sir.
Head injuries have been around for a while, and they've been big in the news for, years now, right?
Yes, sir.
So why does it take, at the time, 2 high school students to come up with a solution that can really help improve the current situation?
So if you look, there are some companies that are doing similar thing, but they're not exactly cheap. They're some of the most high-end helmets that you can buy.
Yeah.
So there's definitely there's people out there that are definitely trying to do the same thing we are and just reducing the head injuries. But you have some companies that are there, you can tell that it works. And if something works, you don't fix it. So even though it still causes some problems, a lot of the designs we're seeing year to year, they're still the same.
They're very, I would have to say, horizontal in their gains. That's where I would have to say, where it takes 2 high school students to even think about this. You look at companies, they're like, all right, this is working. It's been working for so long.
Let's not change it.
Yeah, I would say they're thinking in the box,
They're making easy money, so no reason to spend that money on innovation at this point.
I don't want to brag about myself, but when you have someone who's actually had a concussion and thinks about it, how can I change the world for not only me, but for future generations?
Yeah.
you really think about outside the box, like, all right, this material works here. Let me snag that. This material works in this product. Let me snag that. And you mash it together and you're like, this is actually working and this is coming to fruition. It's gaining a little bit of ground as we go on.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Well, hopefully this innovation is going to pay off. I'm really impressed by the ground you've already covered in such a short amount of time. So we're running out of time for this episode, but I did want to put this out there for you guys to weigh in on. What ways are there that people can help you out with this effort, we'll say?
So I would really like to say, obviously going to our website, visit it, get involved a little bit, look on Facebook, look on Instagram, even Twitter, even though we don't post on there a whole lot, there's things that get posted on Instagram that don't get posted anywhere else. There's some stuff that people know that other people don't. And there's really things that if you just visit our socials, it helps us out a lot.
Yeah,
it really does.
And if anyone can provide any sort of help to us, send us an email. Yep. If you have someone who you know we can talk to, feel free, because it would be a great help to us.
And I'm going to pull the YouTuber thing. Go ahead and give these 2 or 3 episodes, a like, give it a share, send it out to family and friends. And, if you really
not just these 2 episodes, all the episodes.
Oh, yeah, all the episodes, obviously.
Thanks, guys.
But if you really feel compelled to, maybe donate some of your earnings, it would be absolutely appreciated. Even if it's a penny, a penny helps. So I would say that's about what you can help us with. And then, maybe down the road, if we get some merchandise out, you can help us with that.
Very cool.
Luke, anything you wanted to weigh in on last minute?
No. I just, again, these guys are doing amazing things at a young age, and I just wish them the best of luck. And I just hope whenever they're running big multi-million-dollar companies that they remember us. That's about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. For any of you who do want to reach out, again, you can email directly at trifectasportsolutions@gmail.com. If you're a little intimidated because, they're smarter than all of us, feel free to just reach out to Luke and I, who are just not that smart, at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And again, guys, thanks a lot for joining us for 2 episodes now. This has been really insightful and educational for the both of us. I'm sure all of our listeners have really enjoyed it as well. They probably feel a little bit bad about themselves also, but maybe it will encourage them to do a little bit something more with their lives. Again, if you want to support Will and Jerry, you can reach out to them on email, check them out on all the social medias and everything else. Will, Jerry, anything you wanted to add to close things off?
I would have to say thank you guys for having us on.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's been awesome to get to meet you guys and be on the podcast and all that. It's been a great experience.
Awesome. I'm excited for you guys to eventually rank this as the least interesting thing that you did while setting up this multi-million-dollar company. So
it's been one of the most helpful as well.
Well, best of luck to everything that you're doing. And until next time.
See ya.